this is an existential moment. Part of what gives me great energy is that I know that what we do matters right now, right? We are holding the line in the Philippines. We are saying impunity will be held, power will be held accountable. Making you the enemy of the people is a common way to treat journalists in many parts of the world. These kinds of exponential attacks that are coming bottom up, astroturfing on social media, and then top down, those attacks are repeated and weaponized. The law is used against us. When this comes down, you are fighting on all fronts. How do we fight back? We demand accountability from the platforms so that we are protected. Some of the old world rules, our constitution is, the Philippine Constitution is patterned after the US. We have a Bill of Rights. These have been stripped on social media. And exponential attacks on social media, a lie told 1,000,000 times, becomes a fact, right? When you replace the word journalist to describe me with criminal or tax evader or corrupt, I lose 30 years of experience and track record, and it is very, very similar to what happened in the days of Hitler. It is what's happening in many parts of the world. Oxford University's Computational Propaganda Research Project puts the number of countries at 70 where cheap armies on social media are rolling back democracy. Journalists are at the front line. Then the second part of that is, once a populist, democratically elected president is in place, what happens when they subvert, when the fox is in charge of the hen house? Western countries have stronger institutions than countries in the global south. We bear the brunt of a lot of the excesses of what your countries are going through. Sorry, that's a long answer, isn't it? I guess what the quick answer to what you asked for is, everything is good. We're doing our jobs.
Well, you mentioned the phrase enemy of the people, which of course is Stalinist rhetoric that President Trump is now using against the media in the US. But many other Trumps are popping up around the world, and Duterte is very much a leader in that model. Famously said, just because you're a journalist, you are not exempted from assassination if you're a son of a bitch. And we know that last year 3 journalists were killed in the Philippines, 2 so far this year. How can you effectively challenge a system when the very leadership is expressing that degree of hostility towards the media?
Well, you certainly can't bow down to it. We continue to do the stories. At the Global Journalism Conference this year, we were one of 2 who won the prize for investigative reporting, a 7-part series showing how vigilantes are being hired by the police to kill people in the drug war. I mean, there's no better evidence than that, right? But when you work in a climate of fear, where it is, I hate to use the words quid pro quo, the people who, the top businesses want to continue making money, and we are cautionary tales. President Duterte targeted a businessman, a politician. Senator Laila de Lima has spent more than 2 years in prison with maybe 6 days of a trial. And then I'm the cautionary tale for journalists. It's what Matthew said, right? You don't want this to happen to you. But we're still a democracy. The rights are still written in our Constitution. And until that is taken away, we will continue demanding those rights. It's a little foolhardy. I think you have to be a little foolhardy to be a journalist today. But now, more than ever, the mission of journalism is critically important. I learned to live with what you do when you're sitting in our seats is you think of the worst case scenario and you prepare for it. And one of the things that helped me prepare for dealing with, for continuing to do our jobs is reading Jason's book, 544 Days in a Prison. And, he gave me a book, April this year. I read it in one chunk, and that was really the first time that I realized, oh my gosh, I could go to jail for 63 years. We don't have corporate counsel. It actually took Amal Clooney to ask me, so do you know how long you could go to jail? No, 63 years. It's older than I am now, longer than I am now. I learned from his book. You do what you have to do. And in my takeaway was really like when he was in prison, he physically just want exercise, but the prison cell was so small that all he could do was to walk around in a circle. And once he got out of prison, it was so, it was so, it became a habit that after he got out to the mall in Germany, he walked around in a circle. He's sitting next to me so he can tell you. But for me, I was like, okay, this time period will leave a mark, right? But it doesn't mean we won't survive it, and this is the time to fight.
Maria, I read somewhere recently that at this point you keep bail money on you now when you go out and about your life. Could you tell us a bit more about the lawsuits that you're facing? How many cases are open now?
In 2018, the Philippine government first in January revoked our license to operate. So some people actually thought Rappler shut down. We didn't shut down, we're operating, we're challenging it in court, and that case has already been remanded back to the administrative body. But in 2018, in a little over a year, we basically got a case a month. One case a month for 2018, so it's a banner year for me. I've posted bail 8 times in about 3 months. And all these cases are ongoing. For Rappler, even our board of directors, my poor friends who really just believed in Rappler, now face 2 criminal cases for tax evasion. And that comes from renaming, reclassifying Rappler from being a news group to a dealer in securities. Because we're a stock brokerage house now, we really should have paid taxes on these securities. But anyway, I shouldn't go there. Where is it in terms of, we'll fight the cases. I have great trust in our legal team in the Philippines. We have an international legal team that's led by Amal Clooney and Keelan Gallagher, who also is the lead counsel for the Caruana Galizia family. We prepare for the worst. We hope for the best. I appeal to the men and women inside the justice system of the Philippines to rule and keep the spirit of the law alive, right? Because I think there are 3 C's that define the Philippines today: corrupt, coerce, co-opt. And you gotta fight the 3 C's.
So is there anybody who would like to ask a question to our panelists?
We find ourselves that in the course of doing our job, there are more troubles for us. And in Nigeria, it's even worse. When I listened to your story, I was so amazed that somebody can sneak into your room and place the camera. Now, my question is this: in the midst of it all, what do you think we can do? Because in Nigeria, some journalists they have died in the course of doing their jobs. And some are even, withdrawing from the profession. So what is your advice? Will you say that we should continue doing this to lay our lives in the midst of, dishing out information to the public? Thank you.
So I came from big corporate media where we debate about where the line is between journalism and activism. I'm going to, in a weird way, when President Duterte attacked me, my handcuffs came off because I had first-hand knowledge of the abuse of power. This is happening in plain sight, right? So this is a different time. Our old standards and ethics are shifting. It's not a bad thing to be an activist if you are a journalist who is reporting on tens of thousands of people killed in a drug war, right? It is not a bad thing to be an activist because we actually are, as journalists, to demand that power is held to account. Democracy dies in darkness. So I don't think there is as big a gap between where you are and where we are. In fact, in the Philippines, it happened so fast. Democracy crumbled in 6 months. And we still have a veneer of rule of law, which I hope stays, but don't be complacent. This is one of those moments. It is an inflection point globally, and our horror stories. He got out, right? I mean, we're here. We're telling you what it is, and we're fighting. Don't wait until you're in our positions before you act.
Yeah.
Thank you very much. I'm James Logan. I'm from the Fund for Global Human Rights, and we work globally with activists in many different parts of the world. And I think we're all grappling with these issues, with these challenges. So if you're an environmental activist, it's becoming more and more deadly. If you're a women's rights activist, you're being challenged and delegitimized on social media. Human rights activists are being attacked, democracy activists as well. This is a crisis of democracy. It's a crisis of civil society. So my question to you all is, given this is affecting all of us, we need to work together. How do we work together on this? And also, how do we deal with the root causes? How do we tackle this at source? At the moment, so many of the responses are, reactive. They're security grants, they're relocation programs. How do we tackle the drivers of this global problem, which is affecting us all?
I think the first thing we need to do is to state the problem, right? And avoid denial, which I would echo Natalia for tech platforms. Avoid denial. Own the problem, because you can't solve it if you can't state it. And then the second thing is to think about this time period as like the time post-World War II, when an atom bomb went off, when Hiroshima happened, when after World War II, the world came together, and that's when we came up with NATO, with Bretton Woods, with the UN Declaration of Human Rights. This is one of those times, right? Technology came in, and it was almost like an atom bomb went off. It completely disrupted the landscape. News groups should not be thinking this is business as usual. We know it's not. It's existential for the business. It's kind of advertising is dead. And then the other part of this, the same platforms that are getting the ad dollars are also the ones that are being used to attack the news groups that are trying to protect the facts. So this isn't something news groups can solve. It isn't something tech alone can solve. We're willing to help you. Rappler is one of 2 Facebook fact-checking partners from the Philippines, right? I continue to work. I don't think we can go back. The genie's out of the bottle. So let's reframe our thinking. Declare the emergency of facts, right? Whatever this thing is, what are we living through right now? Leave your old world behind, embrace this new world so we can find the solutions moving forward. Last 2 points is women. In the Philippines, women are attacked online at least 10 times more than men. Yeah. And they're sexualized attacks, right? So you tear down credibility that much faster. Women, man, let's rise up, because we're going to have to fight this new generation's change of values. And the last thing is, we in our countries can't solve this problem because the original roots of it are in the Western world, the tech, and we do miss the voice of the United States for press freedom. I think it's still there, but please, democracy dies in darkness. Please, we need to come together.